Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday to you guys. And welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. Today is going to be a great conversation. But before we get started, if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, before we get into this conversation, I would like to remind you that this is for educational purposes only. And as always, we are bringing another amazing guest for you guys. You guys, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go along. Now, you guys are going to be in for a really good surprise and a treat. Today's guest, Cathy Gagliardi. Cathy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be here.
Yes, yes, yes. I've been looking forward to this conversation since we talked the last time or the first time. I mean, we had an amazing talk, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah. So now, before we get started, introduce yourself and tell people where you're from.
I'm Cathy Gagliardi, and I'm from a little town in Ontario near Niagara Falls.
Nice, nice, nice.
Yes, I'm out in the country.
It's beautiful up there. How's the weather up there today?
Gorgeous. Oh my God, it's so gorgeous today.
Has
Yeah,
spring showed up?
Oh yeah, flowers are already coming, and spring flowers are going, and summer ones are coming up.
Oh, nice. Very, very nice. Now, we talked, had an amazing conversation. And as always, we always have a before, during, and an after. Who were you before your story? But now, before you start your story, tell people about the work that you do. I think that they're going to find that very fascinating.
I'm a #1 best-selling author. I can't believe that, of children's books. And I also have created a program called Belly Flies Method. And so that both of them kind of tie together. Yeah. My Belly Flies Method comes from my first book, Belly Flies.
See, I just want to say thank you for doing the work that you do with children. It's such an amazing and much needed work. You know, children are so creative in their grief journey, and it takes a special individual to understand, how to communicate with them and help them deal with the things that they're gone through. And so, again, thank you for the work that you do. Now, before you became a best-selling author, who was Cathy growing up in her journey?
I always wanted to be a mom. People want to be a doctor, an actor, whatever. No. I just always wanted to be a mom. So I'm a mom of 2 guys in their 30s now. Nice. And loving it. Yes, love my kids. And they've taught me so much along the way. I've been in offices and working with people. I've volunteered a lot, and I have wanted to volunteer at Children's Hospital. So when I went in to ask if I could volunteer, they said, no, we don't take volunteers. We have a union here, so we don't take volunteers. And I was so disappointed, but they said, you know what, we have a group of children going in for a reading of a book. Would you like to join them? And I said, oh, yes, I would love that. So I went in and sat with them, and there was children with spina bifida and other challenging issues. And they were like on me and sitting with me and, laughing and talking with me and playing. And oh, it was so fun. I loved it. And I just wanted to be there all the time. And so as I was leaving, the receptionist said, you're glowing. You have to do this for the rest of your life. But it was very hard to get into things like that. And I went to my car and I bawled. And I think it was because I have 2 healthy children at home, and I felt I wanted to give more to these children, and I didn't know how. And so as the years went on, I've tried to do as much as I could for children. And now I'm dealing with neurodivergent children and their parents. Nice. So it's all coming around.
Now, see, that is beautiful. Now, for the audience, explain what neurodivergent is.
It's depression, autism. They say neurotypical and neurodivergent, but I really don't believe there's a neurotypical. I think neurodivergent is different levels and different ways people see the world.
Hmm.
and the ways they see situations. So it's like a spectrum. So you can
Okay.
have anything, but what I'm dealing with is trying to help them feel accept and feel accepted and carry on what their life passion is to be done to be,
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Now, when working with the neurodivergent children, how much fun is that, right? Because you get to
Ah,
learn so much working with them, and every last one of them have their own different personalities as well.
oh yes,
You know,
yeah. Yep, they
and how
say.
they approach the world.
Oh, I know. They say when you know one autistic person, you know one autistic person because everybody's different.
Right.
I volunteered in the Special Olympics and I worked with Down syndrome athletes, and oh my God, I just loved it. We ran out of spaghetti. It was a spaghetti dinner. We ran out, and the coaches and the parents were up in arms. They were so angry, and these athletes were just saying, "So we'll eat. Don't worry about it." Like,
Yeah.
well, our food will come. Let's just have a good time. And they were uh, all very present in the moment.
Oh
They're not
wow.
thinking
Okay.
of, yeah.
Now, how when you're working with them, how do they approach grief in their world?
Um, it's very for autism. It's very different. They um, they're quiet and they don't really express themselves as much. And through my belly flies method, I encourage them to express themselves in the way that they are comfortable because they're so different. Each person, one person may play the piano, another person may get angry, and that will have to be um, addressed as a behavioral thing. And instead of getting angry, let's see what it is you want to say, and let's say it. Let's draw it in a picture, or let's make a story about it. Let's get it out of you. So everybody is very, very different.
Okay. Okay. Now, how did you develop the butterflies method? We talked about. I'm curious. I'm always curious when and love to hear the story about how you did this.
Well, um, so years ago, I was working with this lady named Karen. She was amazing. I looked up to her so much. She was funny and smart and always educating herself, helping people. And I was helping her put together books because she was teaching a course. And during this day, we were laughing and talking about our kids, and telling each other about how the funny things our kids did. And then, which even made us closer. And then the next day, I found out that her son took his life.
Mhm.
It was just like a shock to, 1 minute we're talking and laughing, and the next minute uh, this happens. So this is a tragic, tragic event that I didn't know how to handle, and I couldn't help her. And the whole office, we were just walking around like zombies because of the feeling of hopelessness and helplessness. We couldn't do anything about it. And so when I went home to my kids, I tried to just be the mom, supper, homework, let's go, let's get things going here. And then when it was time for me to go to bed, I couldn't sleep. And when I can't sleep, I tend to write because the TV or the radio doesn't help me at all.
Right.
It just brings up more information that you have to deal with. So I started writing a little poem, and then I wrote this book called Belly Flies. And it's meant to be coming from my heart to help children when they're very young to learn techniques on how to express themselves and how to get through debilitating emotions. And they don't know what's going on usually. And adults sometimes don't know what's going on.
Right.
And so the Belly Flies book is about a little boy who has to read in front of his class, and he's so nervous. He doesn't know why he has butterflies in his belly. And his friend says, "Well, Yum Yum, the alligator, says, I call those belly flies." So it goes on to say, these are the things that I do when I feel like this. I go for a walk, or I run, or I help somebody accomplish something, or make
Mhm.
somebody else feel good, or I breathe, or I talk to my mom. Or so there's all these different techniques that I'm hoping that will go into people's heads. They'll remember them and grow with them. So when they're going through a difficult time, it just comes up. Oh yeah, I know these. It's like the ABCs. I know this. So
Nice.
that brought me through to that's helping the children. And I've given away and sold many books, and to therapists and parents, and given away all internationally to Costa Rica and Guatemala. And I'm finding that the books aren't enough. I have to reach the adults. I have to help the adults deal with these things, and there'll be the trickle down method where they can help their children, and their children can help their children. So I created the Belly Flies method to do that, to help the adults um, ease their frustration in communication, and give them a voice. And this brought me from pain that I dealt with um, to my passion that I love.
Okay. Now I want to go back because I want to know how, after your friend who had lost her son, how did your relationship develop after that? Did you find out? Did you figure out how to help her walk through this?
I visited her, and we have a great bond still to this day. Um, she had her faith and her family and her friends, and I was there to like bring food or just be there for her.
Mhm.
I she had a really bad migraine, and I helped her with some Reiki, and just to talk. And she loves this idea of taking this situation and bringing help to others. She encourages it and loves it. And I spoke to her about it before I got the book published. I spoke to her about it before I did my Belly Flies method, just to make sure this is okay, right? I could talk about this. Just absolutely. And her son Matt, he would have really appreciated this, going from pain to passion. He would have really appreciated that. And so hopefully, um, in her words also, it's making something tragic into something beautiful.
Because I know I've talked with many men um, that have lost children due to suicides, or their spouse due to suicide, and I tell you, there's everyone's different, but the one thing I've noticed across the board is the look of guilt or shame, or the questions of, what could I have done, you know
Right,
what- and they go back and they dissect their relationship. What did I
right.
miss? What could have I done differently? Maybe if I would have showed up at this moment, maybe this would not had happened. And you can't say too much to that, right? There's nothing that you
No,
can say to that. It's such a
delicate.
very, very delicate talk when you speak
Right.
of that, right? And that's the
Yes.
reason why I asked, how did your relationship, did you have to change how you spoke with her? And I'm glad that she turned it around, and
Yes.
started helping other people that have. Now, does she work with primarily mothers or parents that have lost children with suicides?
It's um she's really involved in with groups of parents who've lost their children. But I know that when I first started talking to her about it, um, we're very honest. Like because I didn't know rules or how to communicate like that. So I was just very honest, and she was just very honest with me. She explained how she felt, and I explained, and I tried to say, well, would this help? Would this help? Because I don't know. I didn't know it at all,
Right.
anything. Um, but I felt very angry at Matt, her son, until I realized that he, in his mind, had no choice. He had no other way. That's the only reason. He obviously he didn't want to hurt his mother or his siblings. But when I realized that, it was more like, how can I help him? How can I help not particularly him, but others like him? How can I go and do that before this happens? So when I realized that, because I've had depression, but I have not had that experience that close to me.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's all a learning experience, and I learn every day with from people too.
Yeah, that's you know what, that's one thing I've always learned too, is that everyone, you have to have a diverse approach when you
Yes,
talk with them, right? And I talk with the, like I said, I primarily work with a lot of men, and I see it that is, and I can't speak for women, but I know in the world of men, it's very prominent for men to convince, and including myself, when I got to that point, I convinced myself that it was the only way to do the only way out.
right.
No one cared, right? Like, who would I be hurting?
Yeah,
Because in turn, the challenges that life had thrown at me and the depthness of the loss that I had experienced. Yeah, I was alone, but it wasn't like before, right? This was a different sort of alone. Like, I can't pick up the phone and call my mom or my dad. I can't talk to my little brother. When I go home,
yeah,
my house is empty because my son is gone,
yeah.
right? And it was an empty loneliness.
Hmm.
Now, I pose the question: when you go in and talk with these young children before they get to that point, is your approach with them kind of the same? Like, did you develop a method that was kind of universal to help you open up the doors to be able to talk to them and maybe find out what's going on, to be able to get them the necessary support that they need?
I really go to their level,
Mm,
uh, and see them as an equal, and go into their world, because like even children from adults are so different, but children from children are so different, and to really be a part of um, their imagination, be part of their ad- adventures, and be part of their pain, and try to understand that way. Even like 21 years old, um, I've went into their world and said, okay, now this is how you see this situation.
mhm.
Um, but it's not a true situation. Let's take it apart and see what's the true fact about it. Um, does everybody hate you? Everybody in the whole world hate you? Or like
Yeah,
once you start peeling it back, you'll say, well, wait a minute. So nobody hates you, but you said everybody hates you.
right.
So now we see that actually nobody hates you at all. Um, and do you like you? Do you love you? And bring that out, and just be like involved in their brain and
Yes.
their heart. Be involved in their heart, and then try to help them express it.
See? And I love that you said that, because I'm learning, because I've always been curious, because I do come across youth from time to time. And to be honest, I have no idea um, how to even approach a situation when it comes down to youth. So I'm constantly going, hey, I know that there's somebody out there that knows what they're doing. Do you mind if I bring this young person to you? Because I don't want to do damage. I really don't. And it's only because, being an adult male and working with adult men, my approach with them is totally, you put me in a room with them, I'm like this. This is where I belong, right? So
Right.
I know not to put myself in situations to where I could potentially do more damage than good. And I know a lot of times, a lot of people that do that sort of work, they're really good at what they do. They really are.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I just know how to
I
stay in
think
my lane. I really, I
I
know
know.
how to stay in my lane.
I think if I approach like with children, um, love, honesty, like um, not just love, like I love you, but the whole development of love, the whole environment of love, so they feel
Mhm.
safe and protected. And yeah, I feel that when when you push love out, like when you and not get rid of it, but when you're spreading love, I think that draws people into you, the people who need you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I do. And it makes perfect sense. Now, how do you help parents? I know you got the book. Now, do you talk with parents about
So
these specific things?
yes, yes. So the belly flies method is made for parents
Okay.
to help their children, and my book isn't completed on this yet, but I do mentoring and courses, and it really gives them techniques to help guide them through like frustration. Like
Hmm.
giving their child a voice helps the child and helps the parent when the child needs them the most. So yeah, so we do that. We go through with parents step by step, and give like a little work to do. To see
Hmm.
how quickly you can accomplish these uh, these tips and tools. Yeah, it's
Okay.
just mm,
Okay. I guess my question would be, what now? When How can you tell when a child um, is heading down that road? Because I have friends. I have a friend that lost both of his sons to suicide, almost identical, right? Drugs and suicide. I have, when I talk with these men and everything that have lost their children to suicide, the part that gets me, and the part that I always try to have a better understanding of, is that what led up to that, right?
right,
what was some of the signs that they could have, that was put in front of them, that they really didn't notice, because a lot of times we're left in the dust, right? We're left in the wind
right,
going, what what happened. And
right. Um, like a change of attitude would trigger you to think, okay, what's going on? But
mhm,
they can hide that.
yeah, yeah.
Um, it's very difficult to say because there's because everybody's different in their relationship with their child or their teen or whatever. It's very hard to pinpoint something that's um, for everybody. But I think if they're not communicating, that's huge. That's a huge sign. And you know how teenagers are with communicating.
Yeah.
I wish I had this belly flies method when I was when I was a young mom, because I had a really hard time. But I found that when they came home all the time, I would say, instead of "How was your day?" because it's too big for them. It's just too
Mhm.
big for them to. They say, "Well, fine," right? I say, "What made you laugh today?" Or "What made you surprised?" "What made you sad or angry?" And these little answers, sometimes they say, "Well, nothing really," or they say, "You know what? The teacher yelled at me because I didn't have my homework, but I told them I wasn't going to finish, or you know what I mean? Like, it brings a little conversation. You think,
Okay.
oh, okay. So now this is a little issue. This teacher and the child, this, I have to watch for that. Like different things. That's the communication is hard when they're teenagers, I found.
Mm.
But I think it's the most important thing.
Yeah. I have a friend who has teenagers, and I watch him raise his teenagers, and I laugh majority of the time because I think it's funny. You know, he's always arguing with them, especially his daughter. He's always, why are you doing that? She just like, you don't own me. Like she's got sass.
Yeah,
I've known her since she was a kid, right? And I sit back and I
right.
laugh.
Oh
I
my
laugh
gosh.
because when they're children, I've known her since they were itty bitty. When they're children, she was all over him, right? Sitting on his
Yeah.
lap, you know what I'm saying? Bouncing and all kinds of things, right? His son, total opposite. Quiet, stayed to himself, all kinds of things. Now, the only thing that stayed consistent, even his son now, even as a young teenager, he still kind of stays to himself. But he goes
Yeah.
off and he goes, talks behind talks behind the door, and I'd be laughing my butt off. But his daughter, oh no, she is a handful. I was like, yeah,
Wow.
remember when she
Yeah.
had you wrapped around her finger? Yeah, that all changed. That he's like, man, I'm ready to kill her, man.
That's, well, we don't change, they change, and so we have to adapt to their changes because as they're growing, right?
Right, right.
Because we're just the same person as we've been, and we're trying to learn, like, okay, this is the age they're at now, so what is expected of me, or how do I deal with this? It's just they're constantly changing, and their environment and their friends and all this stuff is going in their heads, and their hormones are going crazy, and you know
Mhm.
it's a
Yeah,
it's a big change during that time.
yeah. Well, I guess my question would be: do they change or do they mimic who we were at that age? Right? Because and the reason why I say that because I'm when my son when he was young, he reminded me a lot of me. Right? He had a lot of
Mm,
my personality traits, but he also had some traits from his mother that I was like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're just not going to do that. I'm gonna have to give you something different, so we don't follow down the road of this because I know what your
right,
mother is, and we don't need any more narcissists in the world,
right,
right? I
right.
need you to be a good man. I need you to be a better man than me. But I noticed that, like I noticed that with a lot of my friends' kids and things like that because I've known them for quite some time, and I go, man, they're just like you. And then knowing that mothers as well, I'm like, I know where she gets that from. So are they just mimicking us, as they're coming, mimicking our teenage years as well? And I think that's what frustrates us because we thought that we had the world in our hands. And as we got older, we realized that we didn't. So I think we take those lessons and try to put them, in play with our children because we've been there, done that, right? So to speak.
Right.
So do they, or do kids mimic us and, mimic the younger versions of us?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that because I'm sure that certain things have come up through like repeating themselves, right?
Mhm.
But like you said, you catch something and you change it before it actually gets any farther. Then then is that mimicking? Is it that they mimic it beginning at the beginning and then you change it right away? Like you're saying with narcissism, I was in the same situation. I had to get the kids as soon as they started developing something that I didn't like. I had to say, this isn't acceptable, and not that they listened because they're growing and changing
Yeah.
and trying to be their own people, and but I instilled that in them, and as they grew up, they have that. As they're older, they have that information. They were working through it when they were growing up, but then they can, when once they go through that crazy time, the teenage years, they can say, "Oh yeah, yep, this is exactly who I want to be."
Mhm.
And I think it's it's a hard thing because I have two children and they're totally opposite too as they were growing up.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about that because uh, watching people and their children have me just laughing on it. I laugh all the time
And
because I
yeah.
think it's so funny, right? I really do, especially little girls, right? But I watch the relationships that little girls have with their parents, and I watch the relationship that little boys have with their parents. Who do they favor the most, right? And
Right.
I noticed that, the little boys will often gravitate to the mother because she's the nurturer, right? And the
Yeah.
little girls, vice versa, will go to the father because they know that they can just get us. And then as they get older, it kind of changes up a little bit. The little guy becomes like dad's little buckaroo or something, right? And
Yeah.
then mom and daughter, they're running around in the same sundresses one day and having fun and all of these. She's cooking, teaching her how to cook and
Yeah.
coloring outside of the lines on her coloring book and things like that. Or they may be neat, right? Depending on the
Yeah.
personality and the child. So
Yes.
I've always been curious about that because I think it's again, I find it freaking hilarious.
I
I
know, and you have to. You
Yeah.
have to. I met a woman whose autistic child insisted on having a hamburger with the meat on the outside and the
Oh.
meat on the top and the lettuce on the bottom and the two pieces of bread inside. And she said I had to accept it, but people in the at McDonald's or whatever, they don't accept that. They say, look at that crazy person, what they're doing. You just have to accept it. That's who they are. That's you know what's wrong with that? If that's how they choose for sensitive for their senses or whatever in their brain, that's who they are. It's us who
Mhm.
make the decision. No, that's not right. Who's to say that? If
Right.
someone invented it like that, we would all be eating it like that.
This is very true, and I had a friend who lost two of their kids to autism at a very early age, both of their sons, and one was very nonverbal, and the other he was just an amazing kid, but he was very verbal. Like, and I noticed the difference between the two, and I like what you said there. Sometimes you have to accept it. I think one of the challenges with the world accepting differences is that we don't know, we've never been taught
Right.
that it is okay for others to be different from you. Because, I mean, you talk to the average person, they would tell you, they often have something to say about someone. Oh, look at that
Yes.
person, right? And, very judgmental. Um, and then I would have the same conversation with that individual, and they go, wow, look at that person. He or she is so beautiful. So I started learning. I was like, whoa, that is pretty interesting, you
Yeah.
know? And I think acceptance is something that people should be able to work on, but people are sometimes conditioned in a certain way. Like, oh, this
Right.
person is different from me, not
Right.
understanding that we are human beings in this world. And so I
Right.
think there puts a gap in between how we show up for each other and how we interact with each other in a way of separatism, right?
Right.
We
Yeah.
we put, we want so bad to put people in categories that
Yes.
yeah, yeah, okay, so that's what I mean. Yeah, I've always tried to figure out why do we put each other in categories, because not understanding what this individual is going through kind of limits you on learning about the beauty of that person.
Exactly. Oh, I feel the same way. Yeah,
Yeah.
my I always look for the shine in people.
Hmm.
What's shining in them, and no matter who they are, everybody has a shine. Everyone has a twinkle.
Right.
And my dad, I wrote my second book. Um, I dedicated to my dad because he passed away in 2015, and he before that he owned his own business. He built boats in this business. He accepted everybody, didn't
Mm.
matter, everybody was equal to him, and he expected the same from them that he would give. So
Okay.
he raised them up. So if they thought, well, obviously I can't do this, no, he just put his openness onto them and said, like, yeah, you can do this. And people rose up to the challenge. And even me, I thought, there's no way I could do that. No, he didn't even question it. Yeah, of course you can. And you could do it your way. It may not be my way, but you can do it. But, you know, you are you, so you do it your way. He accepted. So the book I wrote was Going to Build a Boat. And it's about accepting all these different children and loving yourself and loving them, like spreading out the love and working together and showing how you can accomplish something together, which is in this day, I'm seeing it's not like that as much anymore
Mm.
as like before COVID and after COVID. I'm finding there's like a little struggle now. People aren't people are just starting to come back together again. That's what
Right.
I felt. Yeah. And so I think children need that. They need to know that they're accepted by other people and that they can accept people for whatever,
Mm.
for who they are, for their twinkle.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned losing your father. Um, how how did that affect you
Uh,
moving, during when that happened? Because I know some people have great relationships with our parents, and some people not so much. And it sounds as if you had a wonderful relationship with your parents. So how did that
yes.
affect you after that loss?
Oh, so before he passed away, on my birthday, my brother gave me the book Belly Flies published. So that was my first book that my brother did the artwork and I did the writing. And seeing my mom and dad, how proud they were of me, and my brother, it just my heart just glowed, right? It was made me so happy. And it was just shortly after that that my dad passed, and I knew it was a sign. At the funeral, somebody called me and said, I'd like you to do a book fair at my bookstore. I'd like you to read your books, and at the store. And I thought, wow, I could say no because I'm at a funeral and I'm stressed out and I feel awful. But I know my dad would say, "Why? Why would you ever say no? No, don't say no. You go, girl." And I have that with me all the time. Is answer to yes when you can, answer to no when you can't, when you don't feel you can, but step up to a yes. And I find even now when something makes me nervous and afraid, I say yes to it as a challenge, and
Mhm.
it always turns out better than I could ever imagine.
Mm. I like that because I can relate to that on so many levels of what you just said. Oftentimes I see I'm a thinker, right?
Same.
In this world, I'm constantly playing chess.
Yeah.
I'm constantly playing chess. I've learned not to do it with people anymore, but I'm constantly playing chess, right? Because it's like, okay, if I move this person over here, because if I see them moving in a direction that can be potentially harmful to them, I'm always 20 steps ahead, and I see people doing things, and I'm going, maybe if I kind of move them over a little bit,
Right.
and they can see what I can see over here. Maybe they'll grab a hold up to that and kind of go in a different direction. And
Yeah.
oftentimes they do. And oftentimes, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they got to go in there and get their head popped and everything like that.
Yeah.
And the reason why I asked about your father, because it sounds as if your parents had a huge influence of giving you that positivity and that go ahead and do it,
Oh,
devotion to
yes.
doing the work that you do. And and
Thanks.
it's always whenever I talk with individuals, I'm always curious about how it was that relationship with individuals. And I have had individuals say, "No, when uh, when I when I when my parents passed away, it was either one or both. No, I didn't go to the funeral, etc.
Yeah.
Right? Or they
Right.
wasn't even invited to the funeral because they was such a pain in the butt child, right? They're like, no, you didn't even like them in the first place. Like, no, I still liked them. I just didn't love them, but I still liked
Yeah.
them. They were still my.
Yeah. Right.
How does that work, right?
Yeah. Everybody's different. Like I can't judge anybody for how they feel,
Right.
or like I just know that how they feel is there's a reason for that, and I can't judge them. And um, especially if you've been judged a lot by other people,
Mhm.
you go through a time where, like I did, where I was judging other people,
Right.
and then I thought, who am I to judge anybody? They are who they are. Accept them for who they are, because
Hmm.
there's who am I to say that this is the right way? So I stopped short of doing that. Like, I will not judge anybody for how they feel about their parents, or how they feel like you should do this or you should do that, because it's so personal. Everybody
Yeah.
has something, right?
Yeah. I think we see that a lot in human beings, right? Male or female, it doesn't matter.
Right.
We do see that a lot, and
Yeah.
when you can step outside of there and go, you know what? It is not my place.
Right.
There's no who am I to say how they're supposed to do something, how they're supposed to, you know, all I
Yeah.
can do is go from what I would do.
Right. It's not my story.
Right.
It's
It's
their
not my
story.
story. Who am I
Yeah.
to intervene in your story? Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes a lot of people that do interact in this way have freedom, because there's no expectations. We realize there's no right or wrong way to do
No.
anything. Who am I to tell you that you're wrong? Who am I to tell you that you're right? It's your perception of your reality that you live in. Who am
Right.
I to
Yeah.
tell you that, you going out there and, you know, um, you out in the world and you homeless, it's the right or wrong way to do it. I don't know your life.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. I try really hard not to judge. I can't say I don't judge totally, but I work on it every day.
You know what happened to me? This is why I don't judge anybody, because I realized when I did judge people, people would come back and do it to me, and it would make me mad, right? And so little things that I started catching on in life, like I can be driving, and before um, people would cut me off, and I'll be in a car just cussing them out. Don't you be cutting me off? You don't know what my life. You don't know what I'm doing. And then I had an awakening one day. I was driving, and I'm looking around. This car comes, is speeding. It cuts me off, and it's going on down the road. And I was thinking to myself, like, what an idiot. That's the first thing I said as I'm in a car driving. I'm telling you, this part right here is what made me stop doing these things. I get up the road. That car that just jumped in front of me and drove up, probably about maybe 3 miles up the road, there was an accident. His wife and child was just killed.
Oh my God.
He was trying to
Ah,
get there to them. And I said, you know what? No,
that's it.
because I never know what's
No.
going on in their life. So who am I to say anything
Yeah.
about what they do?
And
In
how?
that moment, I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I gotta do better. I have to do better. Because if that was me, had I made that same decision, probably, right?
Yeah.
This individual was trying to get to his loved ones. He probably was at work and got a call saying, hey, your wife and kid was in an accident.
Right.
Where? I'm on my way. Or
Yeah.
who knows? You may have a parent that's in the hospital, on and they're telling you, hey, you might want to get here because we don't have much time. You
Right.
should come and say your goodbyes. Or, they may have an emergency themselves.
Yeah.
They may have an emergency where they have to get somewhere.
Yeah.
I can accept I can accept that and without judgment and look at them and go, be well on your journey. And hopefully you get to where you need to get to very safely.
Safely. Yeah.
And I leave it like that and I go on about my way, right? But
Yeah.
yes, I think
Because
in human nature, we are conditioned to have an emotional reaction when when
yeah.
people do things that do not hold up to our standards or our
Right.
liking. I think we come up with reasons to be angry with each other, and
Yeah.
instead of coming up with reasons to love each other. And when I hear listen to you talk about children and things like that, you figured out a way to help children love, not only love themselves, but love people around them, because I think that they
Right.
taught you the same thing. Kids are our best teachers.
Oh, they are.
Yeah,
They are.
they're adventurous. They don't
Yeah.
know anything about hate or anything like that. They look
No.
tough little cookies, man. They go out there and bang their head on
Yeah.
something, ow, uh, and they go on about their way, right? And I'm like, if that would have been me, I probably went to sleep. I probably would have went to sleep. But I think I think kids are our best teachers, and you figured out a way to incorporate yourself into their world and become a great mentor to them, to help them not go down a path like most people, and
Right.
to better show up in the world and be mindful of each other, right? Be creative and explore all of those different things.
Yeah.
But most importantly, you're teaching them how to put words to their emotions, because I know as adults we struggle with that. So
We do. I know. We
yeah,
don't want to put words to them sometimes. But
but
yeah, I think we really want our children to experience life, the best of the life of their life, and
all
be
right.
productive and feel proud in themselves.
I love that part right there. You got a copy of your book? Show it to the audience if you have a
Oh,
copy.
this my children's book is Belly Flies. This is the one there, and my
Okay,
Belly Flies method. I'm still working on that book. That's going to be a biggie.
okay.
That's a lot of information, but yeah, I'm just mentoring right now, and I'm getting people on the path. So yeah,
And do me one more favor. Pull it up to the camera again and tell people where they can find that book.
so you can find it on Amazon, or you can go to um, you can send an email just directly to me. And if you wanted like a special message inside for a child, give me their
Mm-hmm.
name, and I can write a little message in for them. And you can buy it right through me if you go to Cathy at bellyflies.com,
Mm-hmm.
and or you can go to bellyfliesmethod.com, or sorry, Cathy at bellyfliesmethod.com, or bellyfliesmethod.com. Give me your email. I will send you three free episodes of the Belly Flies Method to get you started. And if you'd like to chat with me, you're not alone. Send me a message, and let me know where you are and what your issues are, and see if maybe I can help you out, or I can help your child out.
Now I
Hmm.
got a question, and this is more for me, because I do have organizations that work with children. I think that book, it would be something like an amazing tool for them. If an individual was trying to order in bulk, say 20, 30 books,
Yeah.
would that be possible?
Oh, for sure, for sure. You can order it through me, or you can order it through Amazon. I've been having a little bit of issues from Amazon about
Hmm.
them not being available. They should always be available. Um, but yeah, I can do either way. And like the schools wanted me to sign them when they ordered books from me, and so if you order from me, I can sign them and put a little
Okay.
message in there. Yeah,
And do you
yeah,
ever
I love
travel?
that.
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
And I'm always curious because I'm going, ever since the first time you told me about the butterflies method, I was going, you know what? That book can have so many benefits for the schools out here because it reminds me,
right.
we live in an age now to where we've become so desensitized to
Yes.
um, the destruction that happens into the world. Just like, we have a generation of children that have survived so many things, school shootings, etc. Right? And
I
I look at
know.
the younger generation and I go, how can we help them not go through life like this?
Right. Yeah, help them get through it. Well, the belly flies book, I've traveled a lot. I've been to Guatemala, Costa Rica, all through the states. My book is in Africa and in Zimbabwe and Italy and
Wow.
Jamaica, Panama, everywhere, all through Canada.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
fascinating. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
really.
and do you do travel? Do you and speak to schools and things like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes, I do. Yeah. I
Definitely.
really, yeah, I really loved spending time in the schools with the kids. Oh, they're so grateful, and you just see them growing and beaming, and like I just
Yeah.
love that. I find when I was speaking at a school with the junior kindergarten and the kindergartens and the grade ones, before I went in to talk to them, they were watching a film on compassion. I didn't even know what that word meant at that age. They knew. And they're practicing compassion.
Okay.
Wow.
See, I
Yeah,
never
so
again. We didn't get taught to put words to these things that are like compassion, and it took me. Let's say I'll be 50 this year, so it took me over 40 some years. I would say around 42 years. No, actually a little bit longer than that, maybe 40, 43, 44 years to understand the difference between depression and sorrow. Right?
yes,
I didn't know.
yeah,
I didn't know. I didn't know
yeah.
how to put words to what I
Right,
was feeling. And I was
right.
listening to something, and it was a conversation. It was on a podcast, and it was a psychiatrist, and they were actually did a podcast with the client and the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist told the young lady, instead of assuming how you feel, say it for what it really is.
Mm.
And so in the next clip, the girl was going, I was in a situation. I was going through this and all of these different things. And she was real honest with it. She goes, it's not depression. It's not sorrow, but I'm confused, but it's not confusion. And then it dawned on her. She was flabbergasted.
Flabbergasted.
She was flabbergasted, right? And so she went back in because now she's talking with her friend, and her friend is looking up at definitions of all of these things. And she goes, I think you're flabbergasted. She goes, oh, what does it mean? Right. And then she read the definition and she was like, hmm, I am flabbergasted. I thought that was the most amazing thing. Now I say that because
Oh,
it's an excellent analogy of being honest with what we're truly feeling, right? You know,
right,
are you feeling angry? Or is it
right.
something
Yeah.
different?
And it's okay, whatever you're
Right.
feeling.
Yeah,
It's
it's okay what
okay
you're
to be
feeling,
angry.
but as
Yeah.
adults, in order for us to teach our children to be better, we have to first, as adults, learn how to be honest. And that
Right.
is the challenge
Right.
as we begin to move forward, right? As we begin to develop um, in our humanity, right? As we begin to develop
Right.
in our humanity, is understanding our true emotions and having the words to identify them, like and
Yes.
and
And
and going,
then,
you know what? Yeah, this is what I'm feeling right now. I just thought that was
yeah,
just the
when
most
my
fascinating thing. and I started on this journey, especially in the grief field and working with men. When I do my more structured courses, I ask, if it towards, depending on where we are and things like that, I have a segment where I ask them, if you could be honest about your grief, how would you define it?
Mm.
And then once they define it, I go, now, in this moment, you feel some sort of way. Tell me how you feel. Write down how you feel, genuinely how you feel, right? And what I notice is that they will come up with 5 different things that they feel. And I go, if you got 5 or more things, break down your top 3. Now break down to 1. I said, now, is that truly how you feel? And these guys will come up and go, not quite sure how I'm supposed to take this
Yeah.
right now, right? Because it changes the definition of your grief, right? And the
Right.
journey that you're on, the direction that you take it in, once you can start to really, really pinpoint and hold down that true emotion and put a word to it.
That's really good.
Right. So that's one of the methods that I use. I'm going, you know what? This is how we start to
Yeah.
heal. Not
Yeah, that's
everything
right.
looks the same across the board. You feel
No.
a multitude of things at the same time. Write them down.
Yeah.
Only one of them is
Yeah.
true. So
Yeah.
let's put a name to it, and then we begin to go be honest when we talk to people about, hey, how are you doing today? You know what? Today is one of those days where my sorrow is very high, and
Right.
my depression or my inability to think clearly is not there. You
Yeah.
begin to talk like that to people, and people tend to show up and go, you know what? I now have a better idea of how to be in your space with you
Yes. And they
because they don't
can
have the same
identify
grief.
as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's something that I'm still working on, but we
Yeah.
work on these things, right?
Yeah. Well, when my dad passed away, my I was seeing a counselor and he said, "Well, how do you feel about that? Do you feel angry that your dad passed away?" I said, "Well, I feel this. I
Right,
don't know what that is. I just feel this. Like not angry. I'm not mad at him. Like it was just trying to put a word to it. It was the hardest thing. I
right.
still don't know what that word is.
Well,
It's just like
again,
maybe
try
like
that method,
why?
right? Well,
Yeah. Yeah,
it's
write
it's
it
easy to
down. Yeah.
go, it's easy to shrug your shoulders and go, like I just feel this, right? Explore what
Yeah,
it
like
is.
I think it's why. I think it's, like
Well, why is not an emotion? That's
no,
not a
it's
feeling,
not.
right?
Oh my gosh,
So
that's
you okay? Now
true.
let me ask you the same question. Since now we understand that why is not an emotion, it's just a question. Why, right?
Yeah.
Hmm,
Yeah.
like that. You know that it's not anger, so that's out of the question,
No.
right?
Yeah.
So now, what other emotions out there? And think outside the box. What other emotions out there that will define what your why? What that
Yeah, maybe
feeling?
confusion.
Right now,
Yeah.
with confusion, ask yourself, why are you confused? Maybe that's not it.
No,
Maybe
that's
it's
it.
something
He's
different.
Yeah, because he was the man, like he's the man
Hmm.
who's thought he would live forever. I don't understand, right? So yeah, it's confusion. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you brought me right to that point.
Right. So it's a process of elimination, but
Right,
go. Don't be afraid to go deeper. Right. Explore some true emotions. What will really define it, right? And get it down
right.
to it and go. That's what it is. Now I
Yeah,
understand what I am truly feeling, right? And feel good about that, right? Because it's okay not to be okay. What is not okay is to be confused about how you feel in this world. because
Right.
you once
Yeah.
you begin to do that, you have a sense of understanding and belonging, um, and then that's where your compassion comes from. Because once you're honest with that, you can look at other people and go, "How are you really feeling?"
Exactly.
Just
Exactly.
explore and make it into like a
Yeah.
make it to something that they can enjoy exploring, and thinking
Right.
outside the box and going, oh, it's not this, it's not anger, it's not all of these different things. Although it could be this. Okay, what's another definition for anger, or what's another form of anger? Mm, right?
Yeah.
Because if you
Yeah.
was angry, somebody probably be hurt right now. So that's not it. You're not violent.
Yeah.
So let's explore some other. Are you frustrated? That could be. Are you tired? That can be. Why did I say tired? Because that can be another form of being angry. You're
Yeah.
mentally exhausted, mentally and sometimes physically exhausted.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. If you're
Maybe
holding
you're a
any
little
negative
fatigued,
energy,
right?
pardon?
Maybe you're just a little fatigued, right?
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Hmm. So yeah, just something that, something to play around with in the world as we show up as human beings for each other. Now,
Yeah.
before I let you go, if you can leave the audience with something today, what would you leave them with?
um, I think our children they really need to be heard,
Mm,
and we could do that by um, making them feel loved and safe, and and we feel that that's just common sense, but when as adult you're going through adult things, it's sometimes hard to put yourself into their position
yeah.
and understand what they're going through. So I think that if we could help, if we could save one child, then each person pass their love and save one child, then that will contribute to becoming more and more and more this feeling of love and acceptance and safeness. Hopefully will save all the children.
Hey, you know what? You're doing an amazing job. You really are. And again, you bring something to the world. You bring this glow about you, and it's so inspiring. And it's so inspiring. I just want to see you go out there and be around so many children, because I see the way you talk about them, the way that you light up, and it's like you know what you're here for. And to me, that's the most beautiful thing in the world. And anything that I can do to help support that, like I said, there's a reason why I asking about the books, because I would love to see those books incorporated into some of the
Oh,
programs that they have here as well.
yeah.
Um,
Love that.
and because I see your heart and soul went into it, and you actually had the children in heart and mind when you did
Yeah.
that. For anyone else out there, and now my second thing is, how can people find you?
Oh, just go on bellyfiesmethod.com and send me your email address, and I'll get in touch with you. I'll send you those three podcasts, the three episodes, and um, I'm really inspired by my passion. If I'm feeling tired or anything, and I think of the why, that always gets me to the next step.
Right.
So if you're questioning your why, narrow it down, and it'll move you forward and get you to the next step. I really feel that uh, we all have purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all have
And
a
you have
passion.
found your purpose. You got this glow about you that I just really love, man. I really
Thank
love
you.
that. And I want to see more of that out here in the world. I want to see you just all over the place, just making people smile, because I can just imagine. Um, I can imagine your presence. Such a
Aw,
beauty, such a beautiful person. Amazing, amazing work. Kathy.
thank you.
Thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for having such a beautiful conversation with me, and
Oh,
helping us better understand how to support those children, but also,
Yes.
how to help adults um,
Yes.
be more open and helping our children understand how to speak about what's going on. Yeah, it's such amazing work. And so, with that being said, thank you for being on the show today. Thank
Oh,
you
thank you for
for,
having me.
of course, we have to do it again. Definitely have to do it
Yeah,
again, especially when
sure.
the other book is finished, right? I definitely want to know
Yes.
more about that. And for everyone who has showed up today on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for tuning in. And if you made it this far, do me a favor, head over to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, so you be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But this also helps us bring more content and get it out there to more people so they can benefit from the conversations that we have. Now, if you know anyone that can benefit from the conversations that we have, please share this with them. And until next time, Cathy, you have a wonderful day. You guys have a
You
wonderful
too.
Friday as well. We'll see you guys in the next episode. And this is going to conclude this. I am Tony Lynch, and you guys have a beautiful, beautiful day.
Thank
Peace.
you.